All right, folks, Yishai Fleisher here. Last night, the continuation of the October 7th war. October 7th, as you recall, Israel was struck by an unprecedented attack from Hamas. Hamas controls the Gaza Strip, which is in the southern part of Israel on the coast. They came out from that controlled Hamas area and attacked the communities that were around it. 1,200 people were murdered in gruesome ways, rape, beheadings, the whole thing. It was a bloodbath. We've had a war that has raged for the last 6 months since that attack, since October 7th. Last night, it took a different turn, where for the first time, Iran itself attacked Israel. We were told as the Sabbath came out last night, Jewish people observe the Sabbath day, and we don't, read our phones and check the news and don't turn on, lights that haven't been turned on. The point is we keep the Sabbath. As the Sabbath came out, suddenly we were told there is an Iranian attack on the way with hundreds of missiles and drones and rockets on the way to you, Israel. So parents, prepare the situation. Go into the safe rooms because we're about to be struck. Let's see how the news reported it. The folks at Axios write the big picture is that this is the first time an attack has been launched from Iran, from its soil against Israel. However, at the same time, U.S. officials are concerned that an Israeli retaliation against Iran will lead to another regional escalation. I just wonder, why does that have to be in the first paragraph? Is that the way we should be concerned about this? That the problem is Israel? It's like Iran just struck us with ballistic missiles, right? You think we should take care of that. And we'll get more to that in a little bit. There are some American leaders, we'll get to them, who believe that Israel, of course, should strike back. But others think that actually maybe this is a way for Iran just to let out some steam because Israel has struck their assets and killed their generals, and therefore if it lets out a little steam Iran, then things will be fine. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. In any case, when did this all end? At about 3:30 a.m., the IDF, the Israeli army, canceled its order for Israelis to stay near bomb shelters and safe rooms, signaling that the Iranian attack is over. Why is that? Because we were told, and Iran issued through its account, its permanent mission to the UN, its account on X, Twitter, they issued a message saying, we consider the matter closed. This was a response to Israeli aggression. And if Israel doesn't return fire, we consider the matter closed. That's a little weird. What happened? There was about 200 drones and ballistic missiles. But wait, did you hear what I said? Ballistic missiles and drones were shot from Iran, but also others report that it was from Iraq, from Yemen, and maybe even a few shots from Hezbollah. One thing I can tell you for sure, many Arabs who self-identify themselves as Palestinians in Eastern Jerusalem, here in Hebron, where my studio is right now, were cheering for this attack as it was coming down on us. We're going to see some of those images. So Iran's state television confirmed that the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, launched a wide-ranging drone attack against Israel. And they also admitted that they fired dozens of cruise missiles at specific targets inside the occupied territories. What do they mean by that? They mean Israel, right? To them, all of Israel is an occupation. It has no rights. And so therefore they shot at us. Now, this is weird. The army spokesman said that the threats were intercepted outside of Israel's airspace. A very small number of missiles hit Israeli territory with minor damage to a military base in southern Israel. At the time, I'll tell you why that's weird in a second, because I have video here of the explosions right over Israel and the Iron Dome intercepting these missiles and drones. The security cabinet, Israel's security cabinet, authorized the Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant and Minister Benny Gantz to respond to the Iranian attack. It basically gave them the right to make that decision. And but when this was written, this article, it said the Israeli War Cabinet is expected to convene tomorrow to discuss the issue. Since then, they have basically decided that right now they will not counterattack, and they will not reply to this attack, in large measure because President Biden asked Israel not to counterstrike, and because the damage was not great. Why was the damage not great? Because of the amazing air defense system that Israel put up. Let's take a look. This is video from Kiryat Shmona, which is in the north of Israel. This is footage that spread today on WhatsApp and on the social media forums here in Israel. Take a look if indeed missiles reached Israeli airspace or not. Those on the right, that's Israel's Iron Dome striking at the incoming inbound missiles.
Wow.
Now, what is all that like glowing dust?
Wow.
That's parts of the shot down drones and missiles, and that's shrapnel. That's stuff that's coming down. That's debris. Look at this. You can see it very closely here, very clearly. That's debris that's coming down from these exploded airborne attack missiles and drones that are coming at Israel. You see, there's a town below that. That's Kiryat Shmona, part of it. That's very dangerous, that stuff. Thank God Israel's missile system was able to strike. Let's take a look at some of these shots here, also from Kiryat Shmona. Whoever's taking this video is putting their life in their hands. So that is what Israel went through last night. And by the way, my family ran into the shelter as well. I was very busy last night dealing with that. Here's a little bit more video. This one's silent, but you'll see what it looked like here in Hebron. Let's take a look here at what it was like. This is like an air show, like Star Wars, right? Star Wars, the kind that Reagan talked about, just a total airborne attack against Israel, and Israel shooting these things out of the sky. And so, it was a scary night, I got to tell you, and the booms were very loud, and it is by God's grace that Israelis were not hurt, because that was certainly the intention. It was an unprecedented attack from Iran itself, which there's something good about that, because when Iran attacks itself, what's good is that they are revealing themselves, are coming out from under the shadows and saying, yes, we're behind this. Like, we want to destroy Israel. Okay, so that's Iran. All right, Iran are bad guys. They control parts of Iraq. They control parts of Yemen. They control parts of South Lebanon. They have proxies in Gaza, 2 different proxies. Okay, let's see. Right now, back to what I just said. Now there's Gaza, right? Gaza started this war, and Israel's been trying to strike hard at Gaza. One of the reasons that we have not been able to strike hard is because the Biden administration is pulling back on the reins and saying, Israel, don't overdo it. There's a humanitarian crisis. Send in more trucks, send in more food, and thereby slowing down the ability to destroy this terrorist organization that wants to completely destroy Israel. Let's take a look at how Biden talks about how Prime Minister Netanyahu is reacting to the October 7th war, and if Israel's war against the Gazan enemies is just.
It is a mistake. I don't agree with his approach. I think it's outrageous that those 3 vehicles were hit by drones and taken out on a highway where it wasn't like it was along the shore. It wasn't like there was a convoy moving there, etc. So what I'm calling for is for the Israelis to just call for a ceasefire, allow for the next 6-8 weeks total access to all food and medicine going into the country. I've spoken with everyone from the Saudis to the Jordanians, to the Egyptians. They're prepared to move in. They're prepared to move this food in. And I think there's no excuse to not provide for the medical and the food needs of those people. They should be done now.
Okay, so basically what President Biden is calling for is a ceasefire, which means that Hamas wins. Just understand that. Ceasefire means Hamas survives our onslaught, Israel's onslaught, and they would have survived it with the hostages that they took on October 7th intact. Whatever survivors are whoever has survived, the bodies as well, they have taken our hostages, killed 1,200 people, murdered them mercilessly, and have retreated back into their tunnels. Now President Biden says, well, you guys have to have a ceasefire. Ceasefire means Hamas victory. Then he says that there's no excuse. There's no excuse for those aid workers to have been struck. Well, recent information has come to light that basically Hamas was the interested party to make sure that Israel would strike at these aid worker trucks, and basically did a lot of misinformation, disinformation, false flag operation in order to get Israel to strike at these trucks. Now, we all know, and President Biden knows as well, that in the fog of war, these things sadly happen. But to make it that there's no excuse, there is an excuse. The enemy wants Israel to strike at innocent targets so that they could blame Israel for being inhumane, so that President Biden can say, stop the war, so that they can have a ceasefire, so that they can have victory. So there is an excuse. And what we need from President Biden is to say, Israel, these things happen. It's horrible, but we got to fight this war. For the sake of civilization, we got to push back on the jihad. But he's calling for a ceasefire. And there's no excuse not to have humanitarian aid. Of course there is. The humanitarian aid takes the pressure off of Hamas, right? If the people in Gaza get all this humanitarian aid and everybody's being fed and everything's all good and there's a ceasefire, then Hamas stays in control. They have the hostages. Their people are fed. There's no pressure and there's no war. Fight them without a ceasefire. Don't feed the people. Create a tension that reflects back on Hamas and puts Hamas back in the spotlight of being the people who caused this war on the way to destruction, on the way to their destruction. That's what we need to do. So check this out, right? So that's President Biden slowing down the war effort in Gaza, right? Then here's President Biden telling us about how there's no daylight between him and Israel when it comes to the Iranian threat.
The Iranian threat to launch a significant, they're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad. We're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security.
President Biden stood up, said there's no doubt that his support for Israel against Iran and their proxies is ironclad. Ironclad, he says twice. Well, how's that ironclad? You're telling us to have a ceasefire over in Gaza. And over here, you're telling us, well, our commitment to Israel's security against Iran and its proxies is ironclad. I don't think so. Moreover, President Biden, throughout his career in the last administration and in this one, has provided, I heard a figure of over $100 billion. I thought it was even more than that, but $100 billion to Iran, including in unfreezing some of their oil sales, which I think was worth about $80 billion. The point is that lots of money has flowed through the Biden administration to this Iran who pays the proxies and who attacks Israel. Now we're getting news that the Biden administration has asked Israel not to counterattack, not to strike back at Iran. How is that ironclad defense for Israel's security? How is that ironclad? That does not look like ironclad to me. So I saw that John Bolton spoke on CNN, and I think that he spoke very clearly about this strange way of behaving for an ally in this time of war, and how indeed it's not exactly ironclad, and how Israel's security is being weakened. Let's take a look at how Bolton spoke on CNN.
Former United States Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, He was also President Trump's national security advisor. As you know, Ambassador, Israel's ambassador is calling for the UN Security Council to immediately convene following these attacks. What's your assessment of what's going on right now?
Well, nothing's going to happen in the Security Council, that's for sure. I mean, what we had tonight was a massive failure of Israeli and American deterrence, massive failure, a 200 ballistic missile, cruise missile, drone failure. And I think, notwithstanding that there appears to be very little damage, fingers crossed until we get the final assessment. And thank God if the death toll is low or non-existent. And while we're at it, let's thank George W. Bush for getting out of the ABM Treaty of 1972, unleashing American missile defense capabilities. But once we see what the damage is, I think it's incumbent on Israel and the United States to reestablish deterrence in a major way. And I think that means, by definition, Israel's response, and there should be a response, should not be proportionate. It should be far stronger, because when deterrence fails, to reestablish it, you have to teach the adversary that any gain they may hope to get by any future attack will be more than outweighed by the damage that will be caused.
So
I hope President Biden isn't...
Well, I was just sorry for interrupting, but give us your assessment of an appropriate Israeli response to what Iran has now done.
Well, what Iran did tonight that I think was most significant was the firing of ballistic missiles and cruise missiles from its territory direct.
So John Bolton goes on to say that Israel's got to strike and strike hard at Iran and make sure that those capabilities are no longer available to them, including the nuclear bomb that they're trying to develop. And John Bolton's got a problem. He speaks just too plainly, too straight. You know, people around the world don't want to hear that clear, that when you have a hideous jihadism that wants to destroy Israel and to destroy America, you should take out their strength, take out their ability. Sadly, as of now, I fear that Israel is not going to have a massive response, and instead it's going to have a weak response, especially because of the success of the air defense systems. Because of that success, there was not a lot of injury or damage. And because of that, it's something that you think you can swallow, these kind of attacks. Case in point, Israel was willing to swallow over 10,000 rockets launched from the Gaza Strip in the last few years. And so you start to live with the belief that missile defense and air defense is enough, and you could just deal with this cancer developing, which aims to destroy you with rockets. And what if one slips? And what if one is nuclear tipped or chemical tipped and you didn't get that one? Relying on this system of defense instead of a good offense is a recipe for continued aggression against you. I want to start wrapping up, but before we do, I found an amazing video that Pat Condell did in, I think, 2007. And here's how he understood Hamas and Iran and these folks and what happens when you let them fester.
If we're serious about peace in the Middle East, then we need to stop pretending that the Israelis are dealing with a rational enemy they can negotiate with, because in doing that, we're helping to feed a massive political lie whose gravitational force has become so great it has warped reality. It's Hamas who turned Gaza into a war zone recently, not Israel, and it's Hamas who will do so again, and again, and again. They don't care about the people there. They regard them as expendable in the cause of jihad. Why do you think there are no bomb shelters in Gaza, except, of course, for the brave Hamas fighters who keep telling us they love death more than we love life, yet who scuttle away to safety as soon as the bombs come in, leaving the women and children to fend for themselves? Wouldn't you suppose, as they were lobbing rockets over the border every day, that they would have given some thought to protecting ordinary people from possible retaliation? No, they'd rather build luxury hotels to accommodate gullible Western journalists who can be trusted to portray them as heroic victims and the Israelis as neo-Nazi oppressors. In fact, it's Hamas who are the Nazis. Their political agenda is virtually identical, with the same genocidal, supremacist delusions and the same irrational, violent hatred of Jews for being Jews. Actually, the Nazis have a moral edge on Hamas. They were psychotic, murdering scumbags as well, but at least they didn't use their own people as human shields.
So as you could see, Pat Condell already in 2007 understood very clearly how Hamas operates, and that human shields is in fact part of the program. It's the way to get what you want by painting Israel as the genocidal. In 2007, Condell understood that. And sadly, we're being played like this again. And instead of striking at our enemies and making sure that they don't have those powers anymore, and not listening to their fake declarations that they are victims, we understand that they hide behind what the Arabs call professional victimhood. We understand that. But I want to finish off by just showing you one last picture. This is a picture that I saw yesterday, and I put it up on my Instagram, which is a beautiful picture about God's hand coming down and being Israel's Iron Dome. I thought this was a great picture, and it touched me, and really thousands of people liked. You see, I put that up last night or this morning, and it said 1,299 others already liked it on my Instagram. And I thought that it was because it was just such a beautiful picture, such a well done picture. God is protecting the Jewish people in the land of Israel. We have every right to this land. It says that in the Torah. It says that in the Christian Bible. It says that in the Muslim holy texts. It says that in all of the religious texts that this land belongs to the Jewish people, and Allah, God, protects the Jewish people in this land. We had an amazing air defense system, but we should not rely on that totally. We should rely on God, and we should also strike back, because lovers of God should hate evil and should get rid of it from this world. Remember, folks, the biggest victims of jihadism are the brainwashed children in the Arab world, the Persian people who are not allowed to even protest against their government without being caught and tortured. We have regimes, by the way, this includes Qatar as well, which seems more liberal, but in the end gives tremendous amount of money to people that will destabilize the region, will subdue this region with lack of freedoms and subjugation and a religious extremism instead of the light that wants to come out of Jerusalem and what Jerusalem really is, which is the spiritual capital of the world for people to come and get close to God. Well, those forces are not going to win because of Israel's Iron Dome, which you can see in this picture. All right, folks, obviously we got to pray for the safety of Israel, and I want to bless you wherever you are. Last night was a harrowing night. I did not sleep a lot and was making sure that my kids are safe and that my neighborhood was safe, and was out there patrolling and doing my best to keep the Jewish people and Israel safe, and also to push it forward, to make sure that it goes forward and does not get pushed back or slow down from the great project of the Jewish people's return to the land of Israel. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, join us. We're putting out a lot of content. Join us at Yishai Fleisher TV on YouTube. You could always write me an email, yishai@yishaifleisher.com, and check out my website, yishaifleisher.com, and help us keep broadcasting through donations. Help us get the message of truth out to this world. Jerusalem is known as the city of truth, and that's why Israel's Iron Dome, God protects it, the city of truth. But there's a mound of lies out there that wants to sway away the next generation and brainwash children and brainwash the youth and brainwash the students on campus away from the truth. We won't let them. With the help of God, we're going to be strong with your help. You're a hero out there, a hero for Israel. God bless you wherever you are, and shalom.